Welcome to the MCLA Know Your Network podcast. Know your network, grow your community, learn what MCLA has to offer. Explore MCLA's community one conversation at a time.
Welcome to the Know Your Network podcast, where we discuss all of your favorite departments on the MCLA campus. Today, I have two very special guests from the writing studio, Matt and Kacey, who are here to talk about why you should stop by the writing studio over at the library. So, can I have each of you introduce yourself and talk a little bit about your roles at the writing studio?
I'm Kacey. I am a senior English major here. I have a creative writing concentration, and I've been working in the writing studio since I was a sophomore. I am a writing studio associate, so that means I, see students and give them feedback on their writing. But also, as of this year, I'm also the student manager of the writing studio, which means I kind of facilitate our online portal for where the appointments are made, and I also, distribute informational and advertisement materials on our Instagram.
Fantastic.
My name is Matt. I am also an associate at the writing studio, double major in English and philosophy, also with a concentration in creative writing. My role at the writing studio is really to just collaborate with other writers. Similar to Kacey, last year I was in the student managerial position. So we're both sort of, familiar with the runaround and all the ins and outs of the writing studio.
Totally. That's so awesome. And what made you guys want to work at the writing studio, and how did you kind of start that process?
So I've always been interested in kind of like looking at my peers' work, just like seeing, what the people around me are writing about, how they're writing about what they're writing about. I actually had this like reputation in middle school for being the kid who you took your essays to. Because I would, tell you, like, give you feedback or whatever. I would make comments on my friends' Google documents because I just really loved, seeing how they were talking about the things we were talking about in class. And I loved suggesting ideas for them and everything like that. And so that kind of stuck with me. And as I entered undergrad, I was, through the MCLA website, made aware of the writing studio as a student employment option. I was made aware of, the class that you take in order to, be able to apply for the position. And so that all excited me. And thankfully, my freshman year, I was kind of recommended to take the class, the Writing Associate Workshop, that is required. In order to apply for the position of writing associate. I took it and it was amazing. So it was just kind of obvious to me, I've already loved doing this kind of work. This class was really amazing. So, I want to apply and, do this work.
Totally. That's awesome.
No, yeah, for sure. I totally agree with Kacey. Similarly, I was also kind of like the English kid at my school that, people would bring. For me, it was they'd bring their creative writing. I have not always been sort of inclined toward the academic writing sphere, but coming to MCLA and taking the Writing Associate Workshop, the class required, as Kacey said, to apply, that class entirely transformed my ideas of writing that could be academic and, the ways in which we are using language to sort of get these ideas across. We've been very rigidly confined as a society to standard American English, but in the writing studio, a place that's about collaboration and passion, well, of course, we want to make sure that we're sticking within the confines of your professor's assignment. You are encouraged to explore, and that more than anything else is what made me want to work at the writing studio, because I want to encounter other people's explorations, get to know the worlds that they're living in and how I can, sort of take some of that and bring it into my world. Collaboration's the name of the game.
Yeah, totally. And you guys are great writers, so
thank you.
Obviously you guys are a great fit.
Oh my gosh, thank you.
So that actually transitions perfectly. So what's the goal overall of the writing studio and the fundamental mission?
I mean, honestly, if I feel like what I just said, the collaboration's the name of the game, So at the writing studio, a lot of people will think, oh, it's the writing studio. It's a tutoring center. We take our pages and get them marked with a nice red pen. We hate red pens. There is not a single red pen in the writing studio.
No red pens allowed. That's
good.
So our main, our goal is to help people find something that they're passionate about and the stuff that they're working on, how to sort of make that come alive in them, and in turn, how to make it come alive in an audience.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, in kind of tandem with that, like fostering the student's voice, fostering their writerly voice is like a huge goal of ours. And, you know, an appointment session, of course, we, you know, want to make sure that the student is, you know, meeting the expectations of whatever assignment they're working on, if it is for an assignment. But we also want to make sure that, you know, these students' ideas and the ways in which they're inclined to articulate those ideas, we want to make sure that's not lost in the process of trying to kind of assimilate the material to the assignment. And so we really encourage students to kind of, you know, bring themselves into the you know, pieces that they're working on, and to not shy away from kind of involving themselves as like a student and creative into the work that they are writing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think like that's important, like bringing personality into it.
Yeah,
Totally.
for sure. I feel like, you know, on the note that Kacey said, sort of talking about the ways in which, you know, we're trying to get the students, you know, bring themselves to the assignment. I think rather than sort of tailoring the student work to the assignment, we're almost tailoring the assignment to the student, figuring out how the student can engage with the assignment in the way that enlivens them, not a way that fulfills the criteria or gets the grade. Even though, you know, of course, you know, we're here for that too. We want to help with that too, but ultimately that is not, it's not in the driver's seat.
Yeah, we're very process oriented and
sure.
instead of product oriented.
Absolutely. And I think that also, you know, really like helps change up the traditional like academic system of things always just being tailored to what the professor wants. And obviously, you know, we want to do that, but like in a way, but also, you know, we don't want students' creative visions to get lost or their workflow to get lost. And I think that really shines a light on that aspect of like what college is about, you know? It's about you.
For sure. Yeah, like if you're only doing what the professor wants, nothing new gets created. You know, there's no new knowledge brought into the world, and that's what we're about. We're about generating knowledge, you know?
Yeah, and you're not fulfilling yourself in that case.
Right.
Yeah, I really like that. So I like your guys' thoughts on that for sure. And what kind of assignments can students bring to the writing studio?
So really like anything writing related. So, you know, we get lab reports, we get like, you know, business write-ups, reflection papers like on a piece of writing, but we also get like stories and poems. And we also sometimes receive works that are not for an assignment, you know, it's just like a personal kind of project that the student's working on.
Yeah, I will fully come out and say that as someone who works at the writing studio, I'm one of the biggest users of the writing studio for my own, literally for my own personal projects. Literally, like Kacey said, anything and everything. For all I care, a student could bring in an email that they're struggling to write and be like, "Hey, can I get some help with tonally?" Because, like, let's be real, writing emails is just such a minefield.
Oh yeah, I mean, we could totally do that.
Yeah, like grad school statements. Is something we've been doing
I was
a
just
lot,
about
too.
to say, you know, career materials is definitely something that we look over.
Yeah, for sure. So really just, you know, anything writing oriented that people want to take a look at. I mean, we can't help you with your math homework, but, you know, you could try and bring that in. We might just sort of sit and be like, huh? But we could definitely help you with the writing stuff.
Maybe phrasing like a word problem.
Yeah, maybe if you're not sure how to spell your name, we can help with that.
That's actually great because I think I need to rewrite a cover letter to reapply to be an RA. So
Bestie, literally make appointments with us.
Yeah, come to the writing studio.
Get help with that. So like if a student wants to submit something to like Spires.
100%. We've definitely had people bring in their work for Spires.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
That's really great. It's good to know that it's not just like always, you know, this essay or this project.
God, no.
It can be any project. That's great.
Yeah, it's the writing studio, not the academic essay studio.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. So then with all these different assignments being brought in, how do you approach like each different style of writing?
So I would say in our writing associate workshop class and in the kind of training that we do every year before like the academic year, and then also through our practicums, we gain exposure to kind of multiple different discourses or like writing genres, so that we are all like kind of familiar with the genres we might encounter. You know, we're familiar with how to approach a lab report because maybe we've done like a practicum on it, or maybe, you know, there was a part of the writing associate workshop class that kind of briefly covered that.
On the note of the practicums, we have, I think, about anywhere from 2 to 3 practicums, or 2 to 4 rather practicums a semester, I think. We, like Kacey said, we had one for lab reports where we sort of go through all of these genre expectations. We have handouts in the writing studio for a bunch of different like genres of work. So if it is something like if somebody comes in and let's say maybe I wasn't able to be at the lab report practicum, right? But somebody comes in with me for a lab report, I'm able to sort of go to this like big handout thing we have. I'm able to take out lab report files. I'm able to look at examples. I'm able to sort of give myself a little refresher before going into this, appointment with the client. But ultimately, there is sort of an understanding of while we are, here to help guide you and help make your, we're here to collaborate with your writing. Ultimately, you're the expert of your own ideas. So when it comes down to it, we might be reading in one handout that you're supposed to do this and this with a lab report, but then a student comes in and is going, I'm doing this differently. I have a very intentional reason why I'm doing this differently. Here's why. Then we're just gonna be like, oh, you're the expert. That's real because you are the expert of this field. We are, we're almost like your test audience. We're here to help facilitate the conversation.
Yeah, so it's great because it's more than just like proofreading.
For sure. Yeah,
it's like actual collaborative like work and feedback.
I mean, totally. Yeah. One thing I, love about the fact that we have handouts in the writing studio for all these different writing genres is that they're not just for the students who come in and make an appointment with us, but they're also for the writing associates to refer to in the appointment, kind of like what, Matt was alluding to. If a writing associate is not sure exactly, how to approach, an aspect of the student's work or not sure how to answer a specific question, we're really encouraged to kind of, alongside the student, do that research or like do that, looking up, checking the handouts kind of thing, learning with them. Because, a lot of students come to the writing studio thinking that we have all the knowledge. But, like what Matt said, the students have, an incredible amount of knowledge and knowledge that we don't have, in many cases. And so learning alongside the student is just like really crucial and prevalent part of our job.
Yeah, for sure. We all need refreshers, right?
And then like even like forgetting about crucial for a second, it can also be really fun. It is really awesome to learn about all of these different fields. I remember somebody came in who did an analysis of psychological horror movies, talking about like the depictions of child disorders in psychological horror movies. And like that was the coolest thing ever. Like I would not have gotten to read that paper. I didn't even know that person. I would not have gotten to read that paper had I not worked at the writing studio. I would not get to engage with so many of the crazy awesome ideas that students at MCLA are having. Like as much as this is, we want to help the writer, selfishly, I've gotten quite a lot from this experience.
Oh, totally. Yeah. I mean, I'm a super curious person, so I love learning about like literally anything. And so like, like reviewing, say like a history paper, I get the enjoyment of like collaborating with the student and like, working with them, hopefully making them feel more confident. But then I also like, I get to learn something,
like we're nerds.
I don't know. I get to learn something about history, whatever they're writing about. And that's a cool opportunity for me.
Yeah. People just write really cool stuff like on this campus. Like I'll be the first to say it. Like people be writing and creating just amazing things. Like for sure. We have a great community for that, I think. So can you guys talk a little bit about the 2 types of appointments that people can set up?
Do you want to take one? I'll take the other.
Sure.
Do you want to take in person? I'll take async.
I'll take async.
Sure, I'll take in person. So in-person appointments at the writing studio are traditionally the way we like to do things. Like that's our, our favorite way because we love getting to chat with people. That sort of face-to-face connection. We love that stuff. That's our bread and butter. For sure. You could come sit on our comfy couch, come make some hot chocolate when the coffee machine is working, get some snacks, and we will just get to chill and have a lovely conversation. You can bring stuff in that like you're already done and you do want the proofreader red pen. Yeah, we'll do that if that's something that you're looking for, But if you have just taken a look at the assignment and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so overwhelmed. I just need somebody to sort of like help me organize my brain. Like we're also, we're here for that too.
Totally.
Definitely. And so we also have asynchronous appointments, which is much more conducive for a student who already has like a written draft of an assignment. Because the way these appointments work is the student through our online portal will upload a draft of their paper, upload maybe, information about the assignment that they're working on, including the prompt and everything, what they'd like feedback on. And within our appointment hour, the writing associate will provide comments on the Word documents. And then that Word document with, the comments on it will then be re-uploaded to the appointment file. So by the end of the hour, the student can access it digitally. They'll just have like all of the comments, on the side of their paper. And so this is really good for students who are really busy. It's really good for athletes who often, have like long practices, especially in the evenings and everything. In the evening is, when we have most of our available hours. It's also really great for commuters who are often not on campus in the evening. So, although we really, love like face-to-face interaction, that's like a really generative experience usually for both parties involved. The asynchronous appointments are, accessible kind of option for students who need to, see the writing associates.
Yeah, and I think on that note, like you can have, if you make an async appointment for like an essay or something and you get comments on it and maybe like you're a little confused about it, maybe you could send the writing associate an email being like, hey, I want to know about this comment, but maybe that's not really doing it. You can then make an in-person appointment to like go over your comments or something if that's,
Totally.
like you can move in and out of these different forms as much as you want. We're here to support, what's best for the writer. So like we're here for whatever form works best for the individual.
Yeah, totally. So flexibility, versatility, you guys have it all.
Universal design.
Amazing. That's awesome. And how can somebody make an appointment with you guys?
The big question.
The big question.
So we have a online portal where students can schedule appointments called WC Online.
Google WC Online at MCLA. It's like the first thing that comes up.
Yes, this is how I always get to it, other than like the little bookmark on my browser. But there's some other ways. It's also linked on the MCLA portal. I think under student resources. I think that's what it might be called, either Student Life or Student Resources. It's also on. We have a whole web page on the MCLA website. And that probably is also under like a student resources tab. And at the bottom of that page, there'll be a link that will take you to, where you can schedule an appointment. So there's a few different ways to access it. Mm-hmm. Those are some of them.
And like in regards to, our hours and stuff, we are open from 12 to 1, Monday through Friday. And then Monday through Thursday, we are open 6 o'clock p.m. to 9 o'clock p.m. And yeah, you can also, if there are no appointments booked for that hour, you can just walk in. Walk-ins are totally allowed, but it is definitely worth noting that, if someone booked an appointment, we have to give priority to those who booked their appointments with us first. But we do take walk-ins. If somebody very suddenly like, oh, I just took a look at this assignment. Do I have time to book an appointment at the writing studio? Just come by. If we're full, we'll tell you.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And it's good that we're, in the library now for that reason, because before we were actually in Murdoch, which for some students is kind of out of the way if all of their classes are in Bowman or, what have you, or CSI. Now we're in the library. And so that's like a much more centralized location on campus. And so it's much easier to kind of just casually drop by, see what's going on in the writing studio, see if you maybe want to be, seen by a writing associate. Yeah, it's very accessible.
Or even just popping in for quick questions too. We'll sometimes have like somebody drop in and just be like, hey, I just don't remember how to do this type of citation. We'll just be like, oh, here's a handout. Do you need anything else? No, have a nice day.
Sure.
Whatever we can help with, if we're able to, we will try.
Yeah, I had someone come in the other day who just kind of just didn't understand the prompt, just needed me to rephrase it. So I just rephrased it for him, and he was like, oh, yeah. No, that makes so much sense. And he just left, he was all good. He felt
successful
confident.
appointment.
Great.
And here is our exit survey, just to see if we did a good job.
Who helped you today? Yeah, if you're already working in the library,
for sure.
stop by and
Right.
question.
Also, come say hi to us. We love seeing our friends.
Right,
We love saying
right,
hi to
right.
everybody.
Yeah, I mean, the space is open actually all day. All day the
is true.
library is open. And so even if there's no one in there, you can just hang out in there and write, do homework, whatever.
Yeah, totally.
And Lex, believe me when I tell you, we have the most comfortable couch
Oh, I know.
that I have ever sat on.
It's, it's
You
so
guys
good.
know I love the writing studio.
Top quality writing studio couch.
I'm there every night, every other
It's so
night.
real.
Yeah, but you guys are just such fun people, Fun
Awesome.
space. What can I do?
Yeah.
And do you guys have any tips for students who want to make the most out of that hour time block for an appointment?
I don't know if anything comes to mind for you, but I've got a few things.
Oh, do you want to?
Yeah,
go
sure.
then?
So mainly I said, if you you just take a look at the assignment and you're like, oh my gosh, I have no idea how to process this, you can totally bring it into the writing studio.
Yeah.
But ultimately, if you want to get the most out of your appointment, I think what could be helpful is, having read the prompt, there's a relevant reading, having done the reading, because we do not have time in the appointment to do the reading like with you as much as, you know, we wish that was something we could do. That's just not sort of something that we have the time for. And something also, you know, worth noting is that because appointment times are only an hour, sometimes you can book multiple appointments back to back, but a lot of the times, unfortunately, you know, we have a lot of clients.
Yeah, for sure.
So that might not always be a possibility. So it's important to know that if you're having a hour-long appointment, that the writing associate is tasked at most. Like one of our little stipulations in our contract was like, if someone comes in and gives you more than 7 pages, you are not expected to get through all 7 pages. Like that's sort of that's sort of our cap for what we're expected to concentrate on.
Totally.
You can bring more stuff. Like I've brought in more stuff, you know. But there's just a sort of expectation of, you know, as much as we want to be writing superheroes, we are also students and
people.
humans. Yeah. As unfortunate as that burden is. Those are just, you know, just having taken a general look, just, you know, even if you don't have an idea where to go, just knowing taking a look at what the assignment is asking of you and having done the supplementary readings, like
Totally.
I mean, as far as I'm concerned, that's really all I need.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I really agree with all of that. That's, you know, pretty much what I need. I guess something that like might make, you know, a session even, you know, potentially more full is if, you know, a student came with like a very clear articulation of what exactly they needed out of the session.
For sure.
You know, just like if, you know, having like a few sentences in mind of like, you know, I need to work on this. I'm not sure, you know, how to do this. Do you have any guidance on how to do this? You know, just the very specific kind of requests really help us, you know, frame and plan the appointment. Because, you know, a student comes in, gives you their materials and everything, their prompt, and so, you know, at least I usually spend like a few minutes like thinking in my head what's the best way for me to kind of structure this appointment and like, you know, portion out the student's time. And of course, a lot of that depends on the student, you know, and what they want to do and how they want to approach it. But I also, you know, do try to be strategic with, you know, what am I talking about and for how long am I talking about it kind of thing. And so having like a very clear request is, you know, helpful in that regard, but not necessary.
Yeah, for sure. Like you don't have to sort of bring those things in, but it, you know, can definitely sort of lend a hand in helping us figure out how to orient the appointment. Like any knowledge that the person coming in has about themselves as a learner, like if they're just like, if, for example, this person who's come, you know, if I am to come into the writing studio, make an appointment for the first time, and I know that maybe I don't do well in spaces with like super bright lights, like these lights are just, like let's say that's, you know, my circumstance. Yeah. Then we can be like, okay, well, there's a study room over there. We can like dim the lights a little bit, you know, if that's something that would be better for you. We also we have clients who come in and be like, it's really loud in here. Can we go sit somewhere else and do this in the library? And we'll totally like work with that. You know,
for sure.
That's like, you know, sensory stuff like that. If you know that you have certain needs as a learner, we want to help however we can.
Yeah, totally. And it comes to like, you know, visual learners, hands-on learners, auditory learners, like all these different styles totally can benefit somebody and whether or not like, you know, how they can write and learn. So that's really cool. I like that for sure. Okay, so with finals coming up, can you guys talk about
me about finals?
Can you guys talk about like busy times for the writing studio, like where you just get like a spike in clients or pieces of writing due?
I'd say usually we get somewhat of increase in clients towards the end of the semester. I haven't noticed so much of a difference during this semester.
Honestly, I think that the biggest time for us, because Dr. Engelson, our, you know, the professorial manager of the writing studio, is very kind to us and understands that we also have finals. So we typically don't, like some might, but we typically don't work our consistent hours during like, you know, the week of finals when there's no classes. But I know that I had a little uptick in clients around like midterm season. I know that was a big one for me, was midterms.
And one kind of increase I also see is, you know, kind of like 3 or 4 weeks into the semester. Because that's when students are getting like their first writing assignments that are due. You know, that's like when a lot of first years come in. Often they've been encouraged by their professors to come into the writing studio and get that experience as a first year so they know, you know, what it is as a resource and how they can use it. And at the beginning of the semester is just in general when the professors really plug the writing studio. Some of them, you know, grant extra credit for having gone to the writing studio. And so, you know, that's something that kind of ignites the the thought in students' heads, like, oh, there's a writing studio, maybe I'll check it out.
No, yeah, for sure. If it is something that you are even considering, maybe ask your professor if you can get extra credit for coming to the writing studio, because a lot of professors do that. And, not always, but also just the writing studio is a fun place. Why wouldn't you want to come hang out with us?
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's really great. And so I transferred into MCLA as a non-English major, so I haven't taken an English class on this campus. But I've done, I know, crazy. But I've done so many writing assignments for other classes, and my professors, they don't even like bring it up. And I wish like it was more like out there, like go to the writing studio. Like,
yeah.
I mean, high-key, thank you for like even telling us that, because I feel like that's a sign of like, okay, well, what are the departments that don't hear as much about us that we can? I know you're a music student, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah,
like
totally.
that's even what other departments maybe I actually had a student from one of the music classes bring in song lyrics to work with me at
That's
one
so
point.
cool, actually.
So like even figuring out these other departments that are not as privy to the writing studio, like they can benefit too. Like they can also get feedback on song lyrics, and like
for sure.
that stuff's fun. So I think. Like, thanks for letting us know that.
Yeah, like
now
I've
we
done
can try and plug
papers
ourselves in the music department.
for like arts management. Like I do a lot of papers for arts management and like history for like electives. But like for like a long time, I didn't even know like I could go to the writing studio until obviously I met the writing associate. And I got to know it a little better. But I just wish it was more like go to the writing studio, guys. It's great. It really is great.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Hopefully our movement, hopefully our I mean, I know this is like our first, proper, were we in the library last? Yeah, we were. Oh my God, sorry, I have no concept of time.
I had that moment too.
But like, now that we were in the library for sort of the first 2 years of us being writing associates, I believe.
Like we were in Murdoch.
Yeah,
first 2
when we
years.
were in Murdoch.
Yeah.
Sorry, and now we're in the library, and hopefully that move will really, start to allow students to see what we have to offer. Because you walk right in, you see a little sign with an arrow that's like, come to the writing studio. So hopefully that'll start changing it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it already has. Kind of. Students who are regulars are like even more regular now that our location is in the library, because it's even more accessible.
Definitely.
And then also, you see a lot more students come in with just those like, single questions. They just need like a quick answer from a writing associate. You see more of that because, again, the library is in a more central location. There are students already studying in the library. We in general have seen, more students, but it would be amazing to just like see more, especially like, just from all the departments. We get mostly humanities students. And so, I don't know.
Totally.
All the students, though, we would love to see.
Yeah, and you guys are like super cozy. Like,
sure.
It's a really nice environment.
It is, yeah.
Glad you noticed.
It's a nice space.
Yeah, totally. I love it there personally. So let's talk about AI.
Oh boy.
I don't know. I guess what's your policy on that, and what are your thoughts overall?
Student manager, you want to get the first word?
Oh, sure. So we have a hard no AI policy in the writing studio. So no using AI in the writing studio during an appointment. If a student brings in work that is has been generated by AI, we don't assume whether or not it has, even if we feel like it has, but the student hasn't said anything, like we don't make any comments, that's not really our place. But if the student does say that the text was generated from AI, we will kind of explain to the student we're, unfortunately not going to work with that material. And we will start kind of from the student and their ideas and try to maybe re-brainstorm and, do some writing with the student, like actually them writing.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Our primary reasons for this have to do, there are several, factors. And one of those factors has to do with the fact that, the way that these large language models are trained. And that is typically trained off of, these language models are often making a profit by the work that these that they're doing. The people who designed these language models are often getting a profit from that, and more often than not, those language models are trained off of work from artists, from creators, from thinkers who are getting in no means compensated for having these platforms train off of their work, and in some cases even parrot elements of their work back to people who are trying to use the AI. It just ultimately, as a platform, things are becoming, things are evolving at a rapid rate, but they're as writing associates, we've done work. We have engaged with AI in certain instances to see how it measures up, to know where, like, okay, what is the appeal of this that other students want to go here instead of the writing studio, and where does the writing studio, really live up to par in the face of AI? And one of those instances, for example, has to do with audience. AI is not good at recognizing your audience at all, and it a lot of the time will get rid of, your original voice in favor of the lowest common denominator. And then, sort of the point that is a point that is very important to me. I know is important to a lot of other writing associates, is just the environmental impacts are not, as writing associates, worth it for us to, be morally implicated in that. Like, that is not something that we want to participate in. So ultimately, while it is, not our place to judge other people or police your life decisions, this is a decision that we have made based on what we are all, as associates, morally comfortable with. This isn't something coming from the higher ups. This is something coming from the associates. We have all individually voted and decided this is not something we want to partake in.
I mean, it was pretty much unanimous. We had so many conversations about this. We did research, everything, and we really all decided. Like, there were just from each of us just numerous reasons why we weren't comfortable with, using AI or engaging with AI work in the writing studio. And, to kind of, I really strongly second all of the reasons that you provided for why we don't use AI in the writing studio. And, one small thing I'd like to add is a big thing that we say in the writing studio is we work with writers, not writing.
Exactly.
And, to generate something with AI, that is just writing. There is no real writer there, Yeah,
100%.
And we want to work with the writer. We don't want to work with a random text that has just spawned out of a conglomerate of material that was stolen. And we want to work with the writer and their voice and their ideas.
Yeah, the only power we have as people is thinking and creating and generating with your brain. And when we start to not do that, we're going to lose the ability to.
Oh, totally. I mean,
100%.
There have already been studies on that.
MIT just came out with a super big study.
Right.
I think.
I don't want to end up like Wally. I really don't.
No one wants that. But looking at, in regards to the way that changes the way pieces are brought into the writing studio, there are definitely moments where we have, I know off the top of my head of, there have been a few instances where people have just been like, oh, you're not going to work with this work that I did with AI. Okay, then I'm leaving. And, that's a fair choice and a totally fair decision, that people can make. But ultimately, there is just something that is so rich in human connection that is untouchable by computers. Even, for all that we will do asynchronous appointments, and we will happily do asynchronous appointments, it is that connection, that spark of looking at another, hi Lex, you're another human being. It's good to
Matt,
see
what's
you.
up?
That's sort of the, the moment that really, that's where passion starts. That's where passion gets ignited.
Absolutely. It's just, I don't know. Have you guys ever seen Dead Poets Society?
I actually have not.
As the president and vice president, respectively, of the Poetry Collective, the fact that neither of us have seen Dead Poets Society is a crime.
I don't know why. It just hasn't happened.
The professor in that movie,
Robin Williams, we love him.
Dr. Keating, he says, poetry, love, that's what we live for.
Yeah, 100%.
In regards to different disciplines, obviously, business and engineering, essential for society.
Yeah, but the poetry of engineering is just as much poetry as the poetry of, poetry.
Yeah. We live for the arts.
We live for creation.
That's us. That's our power as humans. Because we're not the strongest species, but we think and we create these things that are just so beautiful.
Yeah.
It's when you look at AI art, it doesn't have it's not a Van Gogh painting.
Boring thing in the world to me. I just anytime I see something AI generated, I honestly just kind of think it's boring.
No, literally. I'm just I know a real artist who could do that and it would be so much cooler. What do you mean?
Where are the brush strokes?
Literally, where's the chiaroscuro?
Yeah, it's when you look at a portrait that was drawn by a real person and the eyes are ever so slightly asymmetrical. That's a human imperfection. But it's our imperfections.
It's not even an imperfection. It is rather a modification in the process of going about the world. It is taking these abstract ideas that we have and humanizing them through bringing them into being. Yeah. And that is where all of the beauty comes from. If Monet could just, tell tell an AI chatbot to generate a landscape, then all of those pieces at the Clark would be worthless.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
those are some of the most beautiful things that I have seen. And the idea that this is what we're missing, that this possibility, this generative space is what we're missing by using AI, like that's just really heartbreaking to me, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, and like the bot can make mistakes and like give a human 6 fingers, but no human is gonna make that mistake.
No, yeah, like the mistakes that the bots make are not mistakes that allow you to sort of, explore new avenues. They're not accidental epiphanies. They're rather genuine misinformation.
Yeah, definitely.
One thing that just like astounds me when I think about AI and like people who, are really into it is just like, I just get so caught up on how unnecessary it is, because maybe to some degree it makes things easier, more efficient, like whatever. We've already, I don't know. I think in terms of like ideas, in terms of writing, in terms of organizing ideas, I think humans have been doing like an okay job.
Yeah.
We have libraries all over the world just filled with like collections of material and writing. We have encyclopedias, we have databases that have been organized by humans. And, this technology, considering the fact that, a lot of it hinges on like huge breaches in intellectual property rights, and then also, the environmental impact, I just like don't, there's no way for me to rationalize that.
Yeah, it's rough. I knew definitely like this would be our.
You're like, that was going to be our
component.
question. Yeah.
That's like the question on this. Okay, so speaking about
putting AI aside.
What are like long-term writing skills that students can gain from visiting the writing studio?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of sort of, longer term skills, we have two sort of areas that we focus on when someone brings in a piece of writing, and that is higher order concerns, which is like, idea content. This is meaning making sure I understand what you're trying to say as a writer. And then there's lower order concerns, which is more on the end of like, the technical grammar stuff. That's where the red pens will typically come in, what I mean? If someone's looking for like grammar checks or things like that. But typically we sort of want to focus on, higher order concerns in that place of idea articulation. So for long-term skills, I know something that I've been working with a few of my clients has just been how to organize their ideas as they're coming up. How do you almost give themselves permission to express their ideas in a way that is familiar to them, and worry about translating it into something academic or whatever like second.
Yeah.
It is your ideas are the first and foremost thing. They are the substance that creates this. The grammar and stuff, that's, to me anyway, that's window dressing. It's relevant, and it helps make the piece understandable and framed in a way that is relevant to people's lives. But without the substance, that's the most important part. So ultimately, how to say, if the easiest way for you to say this is like you're talking to your friend, then talk to your friend for a second. Like you don't need to have everything perfectly written on the first go. The point of college, the point of a liberal arts education is exploration.
Absolutely.
And that's what, that is to me, the skill that I want to give other writers is almost, rather than a skill, it's almost just permission to, to run.
Yeah, totally. I like how you guys like really go deeper than just like grammatical proofreading.
Oh, totally.
It's so important.
Yeah, definitely. The life isn't in the grammar, it's in the ideas.
Yeah. We can go on and on about commas, Oxford commas, like all that, but like, we really need to get into like the nitty gritty of like the actual writing part. Like I struggle with like phrasing things. So I think definitely going to the writing studio helps me like learn how to like rephrase things in like a better way. Cause sometimes I sound robotic when I'm like writing a non-creative piece.
Lex, are you AI?
I am.
This is AI.
This is AI.
You guys heard it. You heard it here, folks. Debunked.
Lex is an android. He's not real. So yeah, I guess it like helps me rephrase it in a way that's a little bit more like, how I would talk regularly while still sounding like professional.
No, yeah, because it's so easy to get in your own head when you're writing stuff. You're just like, but does like you repeat it over and over again that it starts to be like, this isn't even a real sentence anymore.
Yes.
So just getting another person to be like, no, you sentenced the sentence. You did the thing. Like, sometimes that's
like
really
I
helpful.
censor myself to the extent where like I literally don't like I sound still like a person, but I sound like
not you.
Not me.
Yeah.
You know, and like maybe that's a good thing sometimes, like during lab reports. But you know, like I still want to sound like me without sounding like, you know, so colloquial where my points don't come across. I end up saying like furthermore 8,000 times.
Oh, for sure.
To sound fancy and smart, but it's not the move.
Yeah, frequently I use big words that I don't quite understand to make myself feel more photosynthesis.
Oh, absolutely. That was a good one, really.
Thank you.
And so do you guys have any advice with students who are nervous about like sharing their writing, whether it just be with, you know, one of you or like sharing on a bigger scope?
I would say, you know, remind yourself that all of the writing associates you are going to see or who you may want to see have been in your shoes and have felt the way you do, and probably also in the present, you know, at times feel the way that you do, you know, like nervous and everything. I know, you know, I get insecure about my written work a lot. I'm very critical about myself.
And Kacey's the best writer I know, so that's saying a lot.
And, you know, because I'm so critical, I can often be, you know, afraid or embarrassed to show people my work. But it is important, you know, to kind of confront your work and to confront your work, not in like confront in a bad way, but just like, you know, have almost like an intimate, like creative or intellectual experience with it. I think that's really important for students. And so, yeah, what I would say to a student who's nervous, we've been so nervous before. It's nothing new to us. Like, don't worry. We're so not going to judge you. We've been there.
They're more afraid of you than you are of them. Don't worry.
That's so true.
Honestly, if like any advice for students who are nervous, I think the most important thing to remember is that writing is not a process that you finish. Like you're never, for all that you can, you know, be done with a piece of writing, for all that, you know, you see books that are published on the shelves and technically people finished those books, like they are still alive and working pieces by the way that those ideas are, you know, working and marinating inside you to contribute to new ideas, to the next book that's going to be written, you know. The history of, like, I'm thinking of, you know, art movements. The whole point of art movements is commenting on the work that came before you and almost working to evolve it. And writing is a constant ongoing process of evolution. It is never done. So if you bring something in and you're like, I just think this is really bad, like, best you don't worry, it's not even done yet.
Yeah,
you
like
know?
it's a work in progress.
And also one of the things that I saw that changed my life as a writer is you can edit a bad book.
Yeah.
You can't edit a blank page.
Exactly. Exactly. You can only edit it by writing on it.
By doing it, And it's, and like that is such a scary thing to, you know, to do the thing. But you know, that's, we don't want to like push you out and make you do it by yourself.
Yeah.
We just want to like almost hold your hand and do it with you. You know, that's what the writing studio is about. We're here to help you take that leap.
You're really like you're your own worst critic sometimes.
For sure.
Your own worst enemy, and it can be hard to like look past just saying, oh, this is awful, and like actually like do something constructive.
How many times have I made an appointment with you, Kacey, and just needed you to be like, Matt, this is good. What do you mean?
This has happened on several occasions.
Like so many of our appointments are like, while they're, you know, so many of our appointments involve reassuring writers that like, no, you're doing the critical thinking. This is what you're in college for. Like, please go ahead, keep doing this. You know, so much of it is just about giving, you know, writers and thinkers permission to be who they are.
Yeah, and you know, to add on to that, you know, a lot of times when students are like nervous about, you know, a piece of writing, it's because they've only had this kind of one experience with this piece of writing, which is them writing it and them reading it. But so often a student, you know, brings a work into the writing studio saying like, I'm feeling this way about it. I don't feel confident about it. You know, I think this is wrong, blah, blah, blah. And the writing associate often has a different experience, you know, from the outside. And so, you know, coming to the writing studio and making an appointment, I think that helps a lot of students realize that their work, you know, isn't just one thing. It has different impacts on different people, you know. It is doing things that you may not even realize that, you know, it's doing and saying. So, yeah, that's a really important aspect of the writing studio, I think, to me.
For sure.
Yeah, sometimes you just need that boost, that like reassurance.
Right.
That, like,
totally.
It's not a failure.
And it never just stops there too. It's never just like, oh no, you're on the right track. Okay, go off and do your thing. It's like, no, you're on the right track. Let me hear more. Like, oh my gosh, let's do this. You know?
Or like, let's expand upon these ideas that you're having.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think that's just, I don't know, that's really cool to me. That's really great for sure. And it's something like I experience with like music and stuff too. Like I always think my music or anything I make in regards to music is like awful. And then I need someone else to hear it, and it's like, maybe I'm not a terrible musician.
Yeah, perspective is everything.
And I'm pretty certain that you're not, right? Like, you know, you're allowed to sort of in those moments get that like, oh my gosh, wait, this is like, you sometimes you just got to drudge through the drudgery, and we are here to drudge with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like you have the same piece that you keep revising on, and you just, because you never think it's like perfect enough, and you just have to stop and, you know,
Yeah,
it's good.
like give it some room to breathe.
It's good. Like, like maybe go back in a year, maybe make some more edits, but you know, I think for now it's pretty darn good. So yeah, and how can the writing studio and like the services that you guys provide help students grow as writers and creators in the long run?
I would say it can help them become more confident with interacting with other people on like an intimate, like intellectual and creative level, you know? Because of course, like professors interact with your work. They leave comments or they say things about it to you in class and everything. But it's kind of, you know, not often in life where we have, I mean, this depends on kind of, you know, your profession or what activity you're involved in or whatever, but it's not often that we get like really close, like, engagement with like another person, like with your writing. And I think that, you know, so much can come of that, like all of the things we've discussed. I just think that's like important experience for life, is just like being able to collaborate with people, to connect with people, to be vulnerable with people, to invite people into your brain and into your, you know, creative space. I don't know, I just think that's helpful in the long run.
Yeah, awesome.
No, definitely. Like, you know, like I was saying before, writing is constantly an ongoing process. If you're, you know, if you've been walking on, if you're, let's say, hiking the Appalachian Trail, you know, for instance, you're going to be picking different things up as you go along. And there are some other things that, you know, you're going to have to set down. You can only carry so much, you know, but everything you pick up is a new tool that is going to be relevant at some part in your journey, even if it's not forever, even if it isn't the most relevant thing all the time. So I think that, like, you know, sort of any tool that somebody takes from the writing studio, even if, you know, it's a tool that they set down, it is something that they have integrated into their own experience, and that is going to be, you know, relevant for them going forward as writers when drawing on their past. And you know, it is constantly growing. You are constantly growing, and the tools are growing and changing with you.
Yeah,
you know?
for sure. I totally agree with that. All right. So like on a final note, do either of you guys or both of you guys have like one tip that can just improve your writing? It could be little known, could be
actually
known.
I put some thought into this question because I was a bit scared of it. So I was like, I gotta lock in and see if I can come up with something good. You know, one piece that I have for students that will improve their writing skills across the board, and this for me is I'm making a dangerous claim here, because I'm about to say that I think that, like, I cannot think of one instance in which what I'm about to say will not improve your writing 100% across the board. And it is, find a way to inject your passion into your writing. Mm-hmm. If you are, maybe you're writing, let's say you have to write a paper on universal design for a class, for example. And maybe that's just not something that interests you a lot, but you're really into dance. You're really into dancing, right? Yeah. Okay, how are different types of dance made accessible to different types of bodies? How can dance be created in a way that stretches across difference? Yeah. You're integrating your passion into your work immediately while still fulfilling the assignment criteria.
Totally.
Passion is what fuels creation. Yeah. And if you can find a way to sort of follow that, to let that, you know, be in the car with you while you're driving, things are going to start looking up, and you'll start feeling better about what you do, even if it's not 100%.
You got to like it at least a little bit, you know. Yeah.
Yeah. One piece of advice I think I would give is just to keep in mind that not all writing you do has to be the product or a product at all. Writing can simply be generative, you know, for material to come. Writing can simply be kind of a warm-up for, like, getting yourself into, like, you know, whatever it is you're writing. I think I experienced this. I have to maybe, like, write a paper, and I know the ideas that I'm supposed to be talking about, but I'm hung up on the first line, you know, like starting the paper, and I'm just sitting there trying to craft a sentence. Meanwhile, I have all of these ideas that are nonetheless bouncing around inside of me. And so I, encourage students to just kind of try to start writing into their ideas. Literally just write out what you're thinking about. Don't imagine it as the product. Just write about your ideas. Write about the things you're interested in pertaining to your, to your paper. Sometimes really what's really helpful is if it's like a research paper, just like doing some like summarizing or paraphrasing of the sources, just sometimes like that exercise, and just like, constructing sentences and just getting sentences out there. That's really helpful for, then activating, more of a flow and, really moving through a draft.
You stretch your muscles before you do the run.
Yeah,
right?
no, exactly.
Right. I totally agree with that. Well, you know what? That was awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you guys
so much, Lex.
Thank you guys so much for coming on this podcast with me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
And
Thank you for having us.
I think I speak for everybody when I say that the writing studio is one of the best on campus, like one of the best resources here.
Yeah.
For anybody, any academic work, any personal work, like you guys are great, and you guys all do so much, and all the writing associates, and obviously Dr. Ingleson as well.
We love you, Dr. E.
Yes,
We love Dr. E. She's amazing.
So in conclusion, come to the writing studio, listen to Lex's podcast, don't use Gen AI.
True.
Perfect. Awesome.
Thank you so much,
Thanks,
Lex.
Of course. Thank you guys so much. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Thanks for watching. To join us on the next Know Your Network podcast, send requests to samlab@mcla.edu. To follow us on Instagram and YouTube, see the links in the description.